Welcome to the deep dive. You sent us some really interesting material this time. A YouTube video, plus some notes, all about learning English vocabulary, but through, well, cooking.
Yeah, it's quite an inventive approach, isn't it?
We thought so too. We wanted to sort of dig into what makes this particular method work.
Well, it's a clever intersection. You take something practical, cooking, something many people do anyway,
Right.
and you use that as a framework for, picking up a language. I think what really stands out is learning vocabulary in such a relevant context. It has to help with memory.
Absolutely. The video itself is called How to Cook in English, Cooking Vocabulary. It's from the English Speaking Success channel.
Okay.
So our mission today is really to explore how it manages to teach you how to make a simple vegetarian soup.
While teaching English at the same time.
Exactly. Simultaneously introducing, they say, over 50 essential English cooking terms and idioms. We're kind of hoping to uncover why this immersive learning thing can be so effective.
Okay, so let's picture it. The video kicks off in a kitchen, someone's home kitchen.
Yeah, makes it relatable.
Totally. And there's some upbeat music, kind of sets a nice, encouraging tone.
Right. And the presenter, they get straight to the point, laying out the goal. Learn English cooking vocabulary.
50 words or so, yeah.
50 plus words and phrases while showing you how to make this soup. And actually really useful for learners, there's a free PDF guide you can download.
Oh, that's smart. That PDF is probably a great reinforcement tool. Something written to go with the seeing and hearing.
Definitely.
And the choice of soup, vegetarian carrot soup, that seems pretty accessible too. Common ingredients, flexible.
Yeah, they mention you can adapt the base. And they even touch on serving it, mentioning different breads, naan, chapati, baguette.
Which is interesting. It subtly brings in that cultural variation aspect around food. Another layer.
It is. Okay, so the video then moves into the prep stage. Let's unpack that a bit.
Right. So prep, this is where the language learning gets really explicit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Prep, short for preparation. He highlights that directly. It's a good example of how everyday shorthand, becomes part of your vocabulary.
And the visuals here are so important. We see him putting on an apron. Kind of funny. It matches his jumper.
A nice touch.
Then he introduces the basic tools. You've got the electric hob, pots, a frying pan.
Right, the essentials.
And then the chopping board and the knives.
And he's quite specific about the knives, isn't he? He mentions a chopping knife, a cleaver, which he notes is sometimes called a Chinese chopping knife.
Right.
And says he prefers a more classic one. Then there's the paring knife for smaller jobs, and of course, the peeler.
Which we see him use pretty quickly. This detail must help learners build, well, a more precise vocabulary.
Definitely.
Right.
Which leads us, I suppose, to the ingredients for the soup itself.
Pretty standard stuff. Onion, small potatoes, carrots, and leek.
But wait, before he even starts chopping, he introduces something more foundational.
Oh, yeah, the 4 essential elements for a good dish.
Heat, fat, acid, and salt. It's interesting how he weaves these bigger cooking ideas into the language lesson.
And he gives concrete examples for each, which is helpful. Heat, obviously from the hob. Salt, he shows Himalayan pink salt.
Which is a specific choice, yeah.
Acid could be balsamic vinegar, cider vinegar, wine even. And fat, olive oil, butter, ghee. It provides a really practical framework if you're learning both things at once.
Exactly. It grounds the vocabulary in these culinary principles, makes it less about just memorizing a list.
Mm-hmm.
So now we actually see some vegetables getting prepared.
Right. The action starts. The verb to peel is demonstrated while he's doing the carrots. And importantly, he throws in some safety advice. Keep your fingers safe.
Good point. Little things like that add value. Then he uses a great idiom. Play it by ear.
Or wing it.
Right, explaining he's not really following a recipe book step by step.
Such a natural way to introduce an expression like that.
It really is. Shows language isn't always literal. Then we get into the cutting techniques. Very visual.
We see to chop. He does that with the carrots. Then to dice. And he explains that means making small sort of square shapes. Good for soups, he says.
Makes sense.
Then he shows different ways to slice an onion. And the leek just gets a rough chop. He jokes it's a good way to release tension.
Huh. Well, the visual aspect here is just so powerful. Seeing the action, hearing the word.
Multisensory learning.
Exactly. Okay, so from prepping, we move to the actual cooking methods.
Yeah, loads of essential cooking verbs here. It starts with to fry, and he explains the difference, shallow fry or saute with a bit of oil.
Versus deep frying with lots of oil.
Right. Then to saute is what he does with the onions and leek. Gives a tip to low heat, so they don't burn.
And as he puts the veg in the pan, he uses verbs like to add, to toss in, even to throw in.
Yeah, explaining those subtle differences, that's often tricky for learners.
Seeing them used in context like that is invaluable.
And I liked how he emphasizes that it's okay to experiment, use what you've got. Cooking doesn't have to be rigid.
That's encouraging, yeah. Then he shows steaming the vegetables, just adds a dash or a little bit of water.
Puts the lid on the pan.
Simple. And she mentions a need to stir so things don't stick. Another basic but crucial verb.
Then to boil gets explained heating water up, obviously, and how you'd use it for beans or, well, the soup itself.
Speaking of beans, they get added next. For fiber, for substance.
Mentions chickpeas or lentils as alternatives, and we see him use a sieve to add the beans to the boiling water.
And the potato trick. That was interesting.
Oh, yeah, cut and tear them.
Apparently, it releases more starch, thickens the soup naturally. A nice little cooking tip mixed in.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Then flavor adds more salt, pepper, and something called picante pimenton for a kick.
A bit of spice, which leads perfectly into the next really crucial step.
Tasting.
Exactly. He really stresses how important it is to taste as you go, to make, quote, modifications.
It's not just about cooking, is it? That's a life skill, really. The vocabulary fits.
Totally transferable. So he tastes it, decides it needs more acid and fat.
So in goes a splash of vinegar.
And a knob. Or, he says, a slice of butter.
Which then gives him the perfect chance to explain the idiom, to butter somebody up.
Huh. Yes. That link between the physical action and the figurative meaning, that's what makes this method stick, I think. Anchors the idiom.
Totally. Okay, almost there. The soup is left to simmer.
Just boiled gently on low heat.
Then serving time. He introduces to ladle out, or to serve out up the soup, and encourages us to feast your eyes on the final product.
Nice phrase. And he describes the taste fabulous with a kick. Spicy, smooth, more great food vocabulary.
He wraps up with a funny disclaimer, don't blame me if yours doesn't taste good.
Hey, fair enough.
And reinforces that idea of practice like learning English. Cooking takes practice, reminds people about the PDF, asks for comments.
And then, like a little bonus, he throws in a few more cooking-related idioms.
Right. First one, to give somebody the chop.
Meaning to fire someone from a job.
Then a classic. The best thing since sliced bread.
Used for something you think is amazing, really innovative.
And finally, to roll the dice.
To take a chance, basically.
Yeah.
Gamble on something. These idioms add that extra layer, the cultural context.
So yeah, looking at it all together, it's a really practical, quite engaging way to build your English vocabulary. For you listening, if you're often looking for, efficient ways to learn things.
Which we know many of you are.
This deep dive really highlights how embedding language learning inside a real-world skill like cooking can be just incredibly effective. You're not just memorizing words from a list.
No, you're seeing them in action. That's the key. The aha moments, I think, come from that direct link. The technique, the visual, the word.
Right.
It moves beyond just abstract lists and becomes, well, more immersive, more memorable. And you pick up little cultural bits, too.
It really does make you think, doesn't it? How else could you approach learning? Not just languages, but other skills, too. What other everyday things, activities could offer these kinds of immersive deep dives into new knowledge?
Yeah. What other kitchens could be classrooms? It's a fascinating thought to leave people with.